Hi, everybody, and yes, it's been a minute. We have a new puppy for about the past week, and I've been on a lot of project deadlines and travel and other activities and events, so I have been pretty flat out. But I wanted to drop in a quick video just talking about some of the errors in sensation, which is probably a topic I've talked about in different ways in the past, but it seems good to resurrect it because I see frequently errors where people mistake, especially introverted sensing, for an introverted judging function, usually introverted feeling. So the difference, and I'm kind of grossly going off the cuff here, so I'm probably going to miss some of the finer points of Jung's original description. But the idea is that it's sensing abstracted. So if we have, for instance, a pen, extroverted sensing will just see the pen for what it is, the dimensions and all of this stuff. But introverted sensing sees the abstraction and things that are tied to this pen. So that could be physical things like black or reflective or writing, but it could also be things like values of that. Having a like or a dislike for a particular pen, or assigning even other things to it that may be even more abstract. But the way that Jung put it was more or less that the value, or the way that the reaction or responses to the object is out of alignment with the object itself. So because there's assignment of value or assignment of traits to this thing, or to anything, it ends up taking on kind of a life of its own, where it has a different level of meaning or importance. So how that then gets confused with introverted feeling? Pretty simple. Or with any other function. Because SI is, the way I see it, exceedingly good at self-reporting. Whether or not that self-reporting is accurate, an accurate assessment, or inaccurate, it is the abstracted impression of the self, for example. So someone could go on for many paragraphs about, oh, I'm creative, and I have deep emotions, and I have this and that, and it turns out, even though all of these things may describe what one thinks FI is like, the difference between the two is that with FI dominant, you're seeing an active evaluation that is taking place. You can actually see kind of the wheels are spinning as the ground is being formed for a decision, a moral decision. Introverted sensing would be much more the established moral framework to say this is right and that's wrong. Well, it's because those values had been assigned in the past, as opposed to an active ingestion, evaluation, and fresh result based on the inputs. So that does confuse people, and it's not exclusive to FI. One can have a lot of kind of introverted thinking like self-descriptions that are actually generated by SI, but because they're not doing active introverted thinking, it sort of mimics or looks like introverted thinking. And as I think I've said many times before, none of this is done by ill will. It's just that people with SI have certain impressions and they're communicating those impressions. And then someone else comes along and says, oi, that sounds like introverted thinking or extroverted feeling, because they're describing certain things that align with stereotypes. Whether or not they're actually doing those things as a lead dominant function is a different story. Okay, that's SI. Now to get off my chest some things about extroverted sensing, or SE. The way people self-describe and what they choose to focus on, again, would potentially make someone who's an SI user look like an SE user, or you could be one of various other things and look more SE than you actually are. Take myself, for instance. If I have my type right, I would be SE trickster, or basically it would be in shadow in one of the poorest functions I've got. But I could have an entire discussion about my history in mountain biking and road biking and having done randonneuring, and recount the different times that I've been in different races and races where I've placed and the teams that I've been on. And then I could go on about the rock climbing that I've done in the past and the experiences that I've had with other people going rock climbing and the sorts of takeaways that I've had from that, and go on to spelunking and things that I've done in other states where we've gone into limestone caves, and I could recount the cold and muddy water and the clothes that I wore, and getting filthy, dragging myself down little potholes and things like that. And the overall takeaway is that I could fill up an entire discussion talking about the sensory events that I've taken part in, but that would skip the point that it really wasn't for those sensory things. It was more or less someone who was SE dominant who invited me into that world, and I saw value and significance in partaking in that world. So the reason I ride bikes today is because of the habits that were built up over time from someone who introduced me to that and kind of got me going. And similar with a lot of these other hobbies, they were things that were introduced and that had value as a thing to abstract. Also, I am an SI user after all, to abstract and evaluate and learn from, with some sort of a value that I was getting out of that. So anyway, the long story short is just, I would say, never underestimate the power of sensing and the ability of sensing to look like other functions, or for other functions to look like sensing, which, yes, it makes trying to figure out the types of people all that much more complicated. But the main thing is that people do tell on themselves, but it's not what they say, it's how they present it, how they say it, and why they say it. That's the tell as to whether someone may be more sensing over intuitive, or intuitive over sensing, or introverted judging versus extroverted, or vice versa. But it is complex because people are complex. And yes, at times it's driven me to, despair is not the right word, but it's driven me with an appreciation to just how difficult it can be to type someone accurately beyond just hedging someone in and say, this looks like X, this looks like Y. So potentially it could be one of these types. And just drawing, even with people that I've known relatively well, being able to draw them into maybe a quadrant or a couple of different types. Anyway, that's all I've got. I just want to say an appreciation for sensing, because SI and SE are actually, from what I gather from the people who have them, are fantastic. Probably in many ways much more useful than intuition. But be that as it may, we have the function preferences that somehow through neurological wiring chose us, and well, that's what we run with and do the best we can. So Anyway, I hope you're having a good start to summer, and thanks again for listening, and have a good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. Bye for now.